Hello and welcome to another episode of Mushoku Tensei Explained. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at why Rudeus was able to build and form such an incredibly huge mana pool, and why the true and complete answer is quite interesting. But before we are going to do so, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And now with that said, let's get to the actual topic at hand. Unlike the prevailing belief in the world of Mushoku Tensei, it is indeed possible to expand a person's mana pool. However, as Rudy discovered, this can only be done during childhood. And this meant that the earlier one starts, and the more mana one uses, the higher their maximum mana capacity will be in the future. And Rudeus, simply because he had access to all of his knowledge from his previous world, and retained the intelligence of an adult, even as a baby and toddler, was completely fascinated and obsessed with magic, ever since he found out it actually existed in this new world. This meant that Rudy started using magic from around his 3rd year of life, and he did so until he collapsed from exhaustion. Fun fact, if he had continued to use more magic after that, his hair would actually have turned white, because excessive use of magic puts so much stress on the body that it manifests in the form of physical symptoms and changes. And since Rudeus could read and understand magical texts before normal kids even learned to speak properly, he is probably the youngest human caster of all time. And this allowed him to expand his mana pool much more than even Sylvie or Julie, who started their magical education and training later in their childhood. However, and here comes the spoiler warning, this is not the only reason Rudy has such an enormous amount of mana. Orsted said it earlier during their confrontation, and Kishirika also mentioned that Rudy's mana reserves are similar in size to that of the demon god Laplace. And the reason for this is simple. Rudy actually has Laplace's mana reserve. To be more precise, the demon god Laplace sent his traits and his very soul into the world, so that he could return one day, after being defeated. And as a result, some children are now born with Laplace's traits, or Laplace factors, as they are called. For example, Sylvie inherited Laplace's hair color and a talent for magic. Ghislaine has received a demon eye that can see mana. And Rudy's body had the potential, again, only the potential, for an enormous mana reserve. Of course, I should be mentioning that without Rudy's training in his early childhood, he would have had only slightly increased mana reserves, and not this massive amount he has now. This mana trait, or rather this specific Laplace factor, was also so potent that it prevented the formation of a soul within the developing fetus, or rather shattered the young soul into 1,000 pieces. Normally this would have meant that Zenith, Rudy's mother, would have given birth to a stillborn child. However, because Rudy's soul possessed this early body, and because his own soul came from another world and was therefore intact and already formed, he was transferred and reborn into the body of this otherwise stillborn kid. This is also the reason why Orsted was so surprised that there was even a Rudy Greyrat at all, because under normal circumstances, Paul would have had only 2 daughters. This was something Orsted simply had not expected. And Orsted was also mightily astonished that Rudy had so much mana, because normally no such kid with the Laplace factor of more mana would have existed in this specific time. And with that said, I say thank you for watching, and please feel free to share your opinions down in the video comments. And while you do that, I say special thanks to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel, and have a nice day.